You stand behind the mower on a Saturday morning, with the Ohio sun already leaning hard on your neck. The backyard is wide enough to make the work visible. Every line you cut announces whether your attention is present or wandering. The handle vibrates in your hands. Fresh cut grass rises in the heat. The engine keeps saying the same thing: move, return, correct, continue. Then the mind offers its little argument. Skip the edges. Nobody will care. It is hot. You did enough. The straight lines matter, but not that much. Finish fast and call it discipline. Notice what happened. The grass did not speak. The mower did not accuse you. The yard did not name you lazy, careful, worthy, or careless. The event is only grass under a blade. The judgment is added afterward. This is where Epictetus becomes practical. Not in a temple. Not in a quotation. Here, with sweat on your shirt and both hands on the lawnmower handle. The question is not whether the yard is perfect. The question is whether your ruling faculty gives authority to the urge to quit before the next pass begins. The first boundary in that yard is not the fence. It is not the line between your property and the neighbor's. It is not the edge where the grass meets the driveway, or the strip along the shed where the mower cannot reach cleanly. The first boundary is inside the act itself: what belongs to you, and what does not. The sun does not belong to you. It can press down on your shoulders until the back of your shirt is damp. It can make the air feel heavier with every pass. You can notice it. You can prepare for it. But you do not govern it. The size of the yard does not belong to you in that moment. The grass grew while you were at work, while you were paying bills, while you were driving home, while you were answering messages you did not want to answer. It is there now. Long, uneven, waiting. You do not govern the fact that the work exists. The opinion of anyone who might see the yard does not belong to you. A neighbor may think the lines look sharp. Another may not notice. Someone driving by may see only a man pushing a mower on a Saturday morning and forget you before the next intersection. Your reputation is always partly outside your fence. You can act with care, but you cannot climb into another mind and command its verdict. Even the final appearance of the lawn does not completely belong to you. The mower may leave a clump. A wheel may dip into a soft patch. The blade may not cut as cleanly near the edge. A gust of wind may scatter grass across the sidewalk right after you sweep it. The outcome is touched by tools, weather, ground, timing, and chance. But the handle in your hands is different. Not because the handle is magical. Not because the mower gives you peace. The handle matters because it brings the choice close enough to govern. Your hands are there. Your attention is there or absent. Your intention is there or surrendered. Your next pass is there, waiting for assent. This is the place Epictetus would point to. Not the whole yard. Not the weather. Not the praise. Not the feeling of being finished. He would bring your eye back to the ruling faculty, the part that can examine an impression before bowing to it. The impression says, this is too much. The edges are not worth it. You have done enough. Stop before the work asks for more discipline. That impression arrives quickly. It borrows the heat, the vibration, the smell of cut grass, the ache in the forearms, and it turns them into a command. It does not simply report discomfort. It tries to name the discomfort as authority. But discomfort is not authority. Heat is not authority. Fatigue is not authority. The desire to quit is not authority. These are events and movements in the body. They are information. They are not masters. What belongs to you is the judgment you attach to them. You may judge, this heat is unbearable, therefore I should rush. Or you may judge, this is heat. I can still make the next straight pass. You may judge, the edges are minor, therefore they do not matter. Or you may judge, the edge is not about the neighbor. It is about whether I let laziness decide for me. You may judge, I deserve to skip this. Or you may judge, what I deserve is not the question. What is mine to do well is the question. That is the boundary. The Stoic does not pretend the body is not hot. He does not pretend work is effortless. He does not turn lawn care into a performance of toughness. He simply refuses to confuse an external task with the authority of the soul. Cutting grass in straight lines is not your worth. It is not your safety. It is not your identity. It is an event placed before your faculty of choice. The danger is not that the line in the lawn becomes slightly crooked. The danger is that the mind practices surrender and calls it preference. A man does not lose himself because a backyard is imperfect. He loses command when he lets the first excuse become law. So you return to the handle. You feel the vibration without making it an argument. You smell the fresh grass without letting it rush you. You see the remaining strip by the fence without exaggerating it into a burden. You separate the yard from the judgment. The yard is grass. The judgment is yours. And once that separation is made, the next action becomes plain. Not dramatic. Not heroic. Just governable. Square the mower. Look ahead. Push the next line. When the turn comes, turn. When the edge remains, edge it. When the mind complains, hear it without handing over the deed to your conduct. This is the boundary of control in a backyard in Ohio on a hot Saturday morning, not getting the whole world to cooperate, but refusing to abandon the small part that was actually entrusted to you. The mower does not argue with you. It only runs. The backyard does not negotiate. It only waits. The heat does not explain itself. It only presses against your skin. But the mind is fast. Before the second half of the yard is finished, before the edges are trimmed, before the last strip along the fence is clean, the mind begins adding names to what is happening. It says, this is taking too long. Then, this should already be done. Then, the edges do not matter. Then, you can leave that part. Then, no one will know. Watch the order. First comes the event. Then comes the impression. Then comes the judgment. Then comes the danger of assent. The event is simple. A homeowner is cutting grass in straight lines on a hot Saturday morning in Ohio. His hands are on the lawnmower handle. The grass is being cut. The smell is sharp and green. The vibration runs through his palms. The yard is not finished. That is all the event can honestly say. But the impression arrives with pressure. It does not merely say, there is more work. It says, this remaining work is urgent, personal, and heavy. It makes the unfinished edge feel like an accusation. It makes the next line feel larger than it is. It makes the heat feel like permission to lower the standard. An impression often enters dressed as fact. That is why Epictetus trained attention at the doorway of the mind. Not every appearance deserves admission. Not every first reaction deserves belief. When something appears threatening, annoying, insulting, or urgent, the first duty is not to obey it. The first duty is to examine it. So you stand there with the mower idling, and you do not rush to become the feeling. You say, this is an impression. That sentence is small, but it changes the government of the moment. You are no longer saying, I must skip the edges. You are saying, an impression has appeared, telling me to skip the edges. You are no longer saying, this yard is demanding too much from me. You are saying, an impression has appeared, claiming that this yard has authority over my conduct. You are no longer saying, I am too tired to do this properly. You are saying, an impression has appeared, using fatigue as an argument. The difference is discipline. Judgment is where the impression tries to become law. The smell of grass, the hot sun, the vibration in the handle, the ache in your hands, these are not yet commands. They become commands only when the mind adds, therefore I should quit the careful part. Or, therefore this work is beneath my attention. Or, therefore the unfinished edge is not my concern. The lazy urge becomes powerful only when judgment crowns it. And this is why a small backyard chore can reveal a man clearly. Not because lawn care is sacred. Not because straight lines are a measure of virtue. They are not. The grass will grow again. The pattern will fade. Rain will come. Tire tracks, kids, dogs, wind, and ordinary life will erase the morning's work. But your assent is not erased so easily. Each time you assent too quickly, you train the ruling faculty to obey whatever appears first. The first excuse. The first discomfort. The first shortcut. The first inner voice that says, good enough, before the work is actually complete. That pattern does not stay in the yard. It follows you into the inbox, where one hard message gets ignored. It follows you into the kitchen, where a necessary conversation gets postponed. It follows you into the workplace meeting, where you know what should be said plainly but choose the easier silence. It follows you into bills, deadlines, apologies, repairs, commitments, and duties that do not become lighter because you rename them inconvenient. The issue is not grass. The issue is assent. Assent is the moment the hand opens the gate. The impression knocks, skip it. Judgment answers, this discomfort matters more than my chosen standard. Assent says, proceed. Then the body follows. The mower turns toward the garage. The edge is left ragged. The mind writes a story about efficiency, but the deeper fact is simpler, choice surrendered to an unexamined appearance. The Stoic correction is not harshness. It is accuracy. You do not need to insult yourself. You do not need to perform some dramatic act of will. You need to name what is happening without lying. This is laziness appearing. This is the urge to skip the edges. This is heat pressing on the body. This is the mind trying to make discomfort into permission. This is not yet a command. Then you return attention to the lawnmower handle. Not to the whole day. Not to every task waiting after this one. Not to the perfect image of the finished yard. Just the handle. The next governable point. The object beneath your hands. The place where intention becomes movement. This is how assent is reclaimed. By reducing the moment to what can actually be governed. You cannot govern whether the sun is hot. You cannot govern whether the grass grew unevenly. You cannot govern whether anyone appreciates the work. You cannot govern whether the yard remains clean tomorrow. You can govern whether you accept the impression untested. You can govern whether your next pass is careless or deliberate. You can govern whether the edge is skipped from reason or from surrender. There are times when stopping is reasonable. There are times when heat, time, or health requires adjustment. Stoicism is not stubbornness with ancient vocabulary. But that is precisely why the judgment must be examined. Are you stopping because wisdom has measured the situation? Or because the first uncomfortable impression asked for the keys and you handed them over? In that question, the mower becomes a classroom. The engine runs. The grass waits. The handle vibrates. And the mind stands at the gate deciding what it will admit. Ascesis does not begin when life becomes dramatic. It begins when the ordinary task asks whether you are awake. That is why this backyard matters. Not because the grass is important in itself. Not because a homeowner becomes virtuous by making perfect green lines behind a house in Ohio. The yard is not the prize. The mower is not the teacher by nature. The task becomes training only when you use it to examine what governs you. Most men wait for a crisis before they test their character. They imagine courage as something needed in a courtroom, a hospital hallway, a public failure, a family emergency, or a moment when reputation is on the line. But by then, the habits have already been trained. The mind does not suddenly become disciplined under pressure if it has practiced carelessness when pressure was small. The Saturday yard is small pressure. That is why it is useful. You can hear the engine. You can feel the handle shake against your palms. You can smell the grass opening under the blade. You can see the next line waiting to be cut. You can also feel the pull toward the shortcut. The part of the mind that wants the result without the full conduct. The part that wants to say, this is enough, before reason has judged whether it is enough. This is where practice begins. First, slow the inner motion. Not the mower. Not necessarily the body. Slow the assent. The impression wants speed because speed protects it from examination. Laziness does not want to be named. It wants to become your decision before you see it clearly. So the first exercise is to create a narrow pause between appearance and action. You do not need a ceremony. You do not need to close your eyes in the middle of the yard. You keep your hands on the lawnmower handle and say inwardly, an impression is here. That is the first act of training. Then name it more exactly. This is the urge to skip the edges. Do not decorate it. Do not excuse it. Do not condemn it with drama. Just name it. A named impression loses some of its disguise. It can no longer pretend to be wisdom, efficiency, or necessity without being questioned. Next, separate the event from the judgment. The event, there is still grass near the edge. The judgment, this remaining work is annoying, unnecessary, and beneath my attention. The event, the sun is hot. The judgment, because I am uncomfortable, I am permitted to lower my standard without examination. The event, the mower handle vibrates. The judgment, this irritation has the right to decide my conduct. This separation is the work. It is not glamorous. It is not something another person will applaud. But it is exactly the kind of work that protects the ruling faculty from being dragged around by first appearances. Then ask the governing question, what is mine here? The whole yard is not yours in the Stoic sense. The weather is not yours. The future growth of the grass is not yours. The neighbor's opinion is not yours. The final look of the lawn is not completely yours. But the next governable action is yours. Set the mower straight. Walk the line with attention. Turn without rushing. Return for the edge if the edge belongs to the task. Keep the standard under reason, not under mood. This is ascesis, repeated contact with the same boundary until the soul learns where its authority begins and ends. And the training is not only in finishing. Sometimes ascesis may require stopping. If the body is genuinely overheated, if there is a duty inside the house that is higher than the yard, if wisdom says the work should be divided, then stopping may be the disciplined act. But the test remains the same, who is deciding? Is reason deciding? Or is the first urge deciding? That distinction matters more than the grass. A man can finish the entire yard and still be a slave if he did it from vanity, fear of judgment, or resentment. A man can leave part of it for later and remain free if he does so under clear judgment, proper priority, and honest intention. Stoicism is not worship of completion. It is loyalty to right use of the faculty that chooses. So inside this simple chore, you practice 3 movements. Receive the impression without becoming it. Examine the judgment before obeying it. Give assent only to what reason can defend. This is how the backyard becomes a place of discipline. The same mind that learns to pause behind a mower can pause before answering an angry email. The same mind that refuses to let heat become law can refuse to let embarrassment become law. The same mind that returns to the handle can return to the task in front of it when bills, deadlines, noise, and public judgment begin pressing for panic. You are not training for grass. You are training for the moment when something larger appears and demands your assent before you have examined it. And the method will be the same. Name the impression. Separate the event from the judgment. Return to what is yours to govern. Choose the next action cleanly. Then push the mower forward. Duty is often quieter than desire. Desire announces itself. It wants relief now. It wants the mower back in the garage. It wants the cold drink, the chair, the phone, the excuse that sounds reasonable enough to pass inspection. Desire wants to turn the machine away from the rough edge and call the unfinished strip not worth it. Duty does not speak as loudly. It simply stands where the task stands. The yard is before you. The handle is in your hands. The line is not finished. The edge still needs attention. No one may praise you for completing it. No one may blame you if you do not. But responsibility is not created by applause or blame. Responsibility begins where a task has been accepted and the next governable action is still yours. That is the adult fact of the moment. You are the homeowner. This is not a grand title. It does not make you important. It does not place a crown on your head because you own a patch of grass in Ohio. It simply means this yard has been placed under your care for now. Not under your neighbor's care. Not under the care of the weather. Not under the care of some future version of you who will somehow become more disciplined later in the day. Under yours. That does not mean you control every result. It means your conduct inside the assignment belongs to you. Epictetus would not ask whether the job is impressive. He would ask whether you are using the present material rightly. Some men are given command of cities. Some are given illness. Some are given insult. Some are given poverty. Some are given a family dispute, a courtroom date, a failing business, a hospital hallway, a letter they dread opening. And on this morning, you are given a mower, heat, grass, and the temptation to skip what remains. The material differs. The question does not. Will you meet what is present with examined judgment, or will you hand your conduct to whatever impulse arrives first? Responsibility does not require drama. Most of it is repetition. Pay the bill. Return the call. Fix what you broke. Say what must be said without making a performance of honesty. Show up when you gave your word. Cut the edge because the edge is part of the task, not because the world is watching. This is where conduct becomes a form of truth. A man's stated principles are easy to arrange. He can speak about discipline, order, standards, respect, and responsibility while sitting comfortably indoors. But the body reveals what the mouth has not yet proven. Under heat. Under boredom. Under small inconvenience. Under the vibration of a machine in the hands. Under the steady invitation to do slightly less than what reason has already recognized as proper. That is where the ruling faculty is tested without ceremony. The lazy urge says, "This is only grass." And it is right in one sense. It is only grass. The universe does not depend on the pattern in this yard. Your worth does not rise or fall with the mower lines. The Stoic must be clear about that. Externals are externals. The lawn is not virtue. The straight line is not wisdom. The trimmed edge is not justice. But conduct is not external in the same way. The grass is outside the ruling faculty. Your use of judgment is not. The appearance of the yard is partly outside your control. Your intention while working is not. The opinion of anyone passing by is not yours. Your willingness to act from reason rather than excuse is yours. So the value error must be corrected carefully. Do not inflate the yard into an idol. Do not make the work a measure of your human worth. But do not use the truth as a hiding place for negligence. The fact that an external is not supreme does not mean your conduct around it is meaningless. This is a common evasion. A man says, "It does not matter," when what he means is, "I do not want to be ruled by duty right now." He borrows philosophy to protect laziness. He calls indifference what is really surrender. He says, the lawn is not important, while quietly allowing comfort to govern his next move. Stoicism does not excuse that. The proper question is sharper: since this external is not my highest good, how should I handle it as a responsible person? That question brings order back. You do not serve the grass. You serve the faculty of choice by using the grass as material for right action. You do not worship straight lines. You practice attention while making them. You do not fear a messy edge. You refuse to let a messy judgment decide whether the edge is left undone. Then the work becomes clean in the only place that finally matters, the intention. Push the mower because this pass is yours. Trim the edge because you judged it part of the task. Stop only if reason, not laziness, tells you to stop. Continue only if responsibility, not vanity, tells you to continue. This is duty without noise. This is responsibility without performance. This is conduct held inside the boundary of control. The Sunday may still be hot. The yard may still be large. The handle may still vibrate. But the next action can be governed. Freedom is not found when the yard is finally done. It is found earlier, at the moment when the impression appears and you do not kneel. The grass may still be uneven. The Sunday may still be hot. The mower may still shake through the handle. The edge may still wait along the fence, asking for one more ordinary act of attention. None of that is freedom. Those are conditions. Freedom is the ruling faculty standing upright inside those conditions. You are not free because the work is pleasant. You are free when unpleasant work does not purchase your judgment. You are not free because the yard looks perfect. You are free when the appearance of the yard no longer owns your worth. You are not free because no one criticizes you. You are free when criticism, praise, heat, fatigue, and inconvenience are all returned to their proper size. The event is grass under a blade. The judgment is yours. That is the clean division. That is the discipline. That is the place where Epictetus keeps bringing the mind back, not to what happened, but to what you made it mean, not to what pressed on you, but to what you allowed to govern you. So finish the pass in front of you. Trim the edge if reason says it belongs to the task. Stop if reason says stopping is proper. But do not let laziness wear the mask of wisdom. Do not let discomfort rename surrender as choice. When the mower goes quiet, the yard will still be an external. It will grow again. Weather will change it. Time will erase the lines. But the faculty that judged, paused, corrected, and chose, that remains trained. The event cannot name you.